How you doing, Stosh vlog fans? This is Stosh, the Polish American vlogger, coming back at you with all negative stories. Sorry. I just want to discuss this stuff. This is very interesting to me. So this is part 3 of my ongoing series. It's been pretty sloppy. Sorry, but I'm doing what I can. I want to continue to discuss the end of the Polish Americans. Is it the literal end of all of us? I don't know. Let's move on to Chicago. Chicago, the American Warsaw. The big area of the Polish concentration is now, much like Greenpoint in Brooklyn, New York, gentrified up or hipstered. It is now a local hipster area called Wicca Park, and that's weird. It has certain, not to go too far off topic, and something that will be probably might ruin the essence of what I'm talking about, is there's certain occult connections to that. See the book Psychological Warfare and the Secret Society or something like that. Anyway, it's a occult meaning, like Wicca Man, the movie, but actually it's named after a guy, Charles Wicca, I'm seeing here. So anyway, I digress. I'll leave that in liner notes anyway. It'd be interesting. It's an interesting synchronistic thing, but looks like in this case it's a guy named Charles Wicca. So there's nothing diabolical about that part. But I'm getting dark on this because this is another story similar to Pole Town, where over 4,000 Poles were kicked out of Pole Town in Detroit, in the Detroit area of Michigan. You're talking about a similar thing with the construction of the Kennedy Expressway. There was another radical upheaval of the Polish neighborhoods. Good, hard-working people. So yeah, so you're talking about the theme is the end of the Polish Americans. That's definitely in the mix when you're talking about the Chicago area that used to be typically a stronghold. So the Polish downtown area at one time was very Polish. Now, I'm going to refer you to the line. It's an excellent article that talks about what I'm talking about, not strange side topics like the Wicca. Don't lay that on me. That was synchronistic speculation. Don't discount all this. Somebody Russian said, "Hey, I'll discount this. You're not." Yeah, whatever. This is not a popular topic anyway, so I don't care. But let's get into reality now. That's just high speculation about occult matters. Apologize. Might have to redo this. Sorry. More discussion about the end of the Polish Americans, which is fascinating. I direct viewers and vlog listeners, watchers, to an article called Empty Faces by a Molly O'Mara. Okay, so I'm drawing themes heavily from her article, which I include in the liner notes. So it's Molly O'Mara, M-E-R-A, Molly. Okay, written back in November 19th, 2018. Empty Faces, how Chicago's Polish downtown had its heritage washed away all the time, over time. So yeah, that was 2018 when the Polish were celebrating the 100th anniversary of Polish independence, where the Poles in Piłsudski did a good job of making Poland free for a while there. By the way, not not very much. I mean, people know about it. That's partially due to the intelligence of Polish code breakers who broke ciphers and allowed the Polish to win that war, which is extremely popular with certain members of the intelligentsia who, quite frankly, favor communism. Communism, which has always been sort of a snobby thing in the United States. And I know they didn't have real communism. It's never been done. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there were 70,000 Poles in that area. West Town. That's the Polish Triangle. There's a little Polish Triangle in Boston, by the way. If you're from there, go down and give that one a shot. There's a restaurant and a couple of tiny shops there. And if you're from Chicago, give me a shout. You know, what is really the case? And I'm gonna leave this article in the liner notes. So briefly, I'll break it down. The West Town, the Polish neighborhood is pretty much gone. Okay, and there's not much Polish culture there. She quotes a person, last name spelled Kozuchowska. Kozycka. The only thing that remains are some of the buildings. The culturally Polish institutes which remain are of the lofty charitable sort. So there's been a major decline. So Poles in Chicago participated in the wave of white flight, which happened in Boston's Charlestown in South Boston area. And part of social engineering and change in this country had to do with the airport projects, highway projects that busted up neighborhoods. This certainly was the case. I kind of object to some of that white flight and saying that necessarily if you're Polish, you're necessarily breaking down to just a white person. And other people have talked about this. I'll leave the name of a book that goes into that in the liner notes. So there's a kind of a small museum there that tries to keep up the memory. Now, so Kennedy Expressway broke up the center of Polish downtown Chicago's infuriated many Polonians. So that's a lot like Pole Town, where the General Motors plant came in, completely displaced people. There were protests and they fought it. Basically, they called SWAT team in there and kicked the old Polish ladies out. Disgusting. Ralph Nader came down. He was into it, and Donnie Iris, who was a pretty popular singer, wrote a song called Pole Town about it. Now, this is, of course, a much larger thing that happened. The Polish Triangle kind of going away in Chicago. Chicago's seen as a massive Polish stronghold. There's a book called American Warsaw by a Dominic, last name Pacyga. I have not read it, but it tells the story. I cannot vouch for it yet. He's trying to say that basically the title of that book is like the rise, the fall, and the rebirth. So he's saying rebirth. So as not to be too negative, I don't really know. Polishness. Did the Poles move up to the middle class? What's the truth? Or did they age and die out? That will be on the next installment of this. Now, Anyway, going back, using as a reference this excellent article. So there's an author who's popular, literally probably among hipsters, Mr. Algren. He is the author of The Man with the Golden Arm. There's a lot of people that like that. It's the seedy side of life, and heroin use, and particularly the left is obsessed with that. And I can see it's all very interesting. Nelson Algren, the lover of Simone de Beauvoir. So he was very popular among the intellectuals and so forth. But he is. I'm going to take the word, the side of my brothers in the Polonia, and accept them at face value. That they have a right to be angry with him. He wrote a book called Never Come Morning, and Poles say it's loaded with anti-Polish stereotypes. So after this neighborhood was basically decimated, they wanted to put a monument to this guy, this author. His literary fans petitioned to have the Polish Triangle renamed in commemoration of the author. Leaders of the Polish community, including the Polish Museum of America, spoke out against this, saying that it will erase the history of an important piece of land. So they kind of compromised, which is good, I guess. Not really. I don't. If it was a Polish neighborhood, let them have something there to remember him, not some guy's book about a junkie who writes about junkies and makes fun of the Polish people. Why wouldn't they be pissed? But they have a fountain there for him, Nelson Algren fountain. So maybe that's some justice. Here in Boston, there was a statue that represented Polish doomed soldiers, and it offended the Boston of Brahmins or somebody, and they removed the statue to an area would not offend, away from the Boston Common. And in New Jersey, that has also been an eyesore. Kachin, the intelligentsia was murdered illegally in war crimes, and the Kachin statue had to be moved by the New Jersey governor, who's, I don't know. I don't think I think he likes his new immigrants, and I don't think he's a big fan of the Polish people. But so what do you think? Are you a huge fan of Nelson? I mean, it's almost, I would say by the influential left, he's probably almost untouchable. He's written also, or he was working on a book about Hurricane, the boxer who was wrongly accused of murder. Why cause any trouble for the Poles? Put the statue in an area where it would be appreciated. Or is this now hipster town, just like Greenpoint? It's like constant negotiations. What do you think? Have you read the book Algren and the Polish Chicago Polonia, the downtown? There's said to be 10 million Poles left in this country. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There's supposed to be 3.8 people of Chinese descent. Million. I don't believe that. There seems to be more. Now, I don't want to get this into a battle between Chinese and Polish, or whatever. I'm just saying, it just seems to be more. So, if the Poles are on their way out, why screw with their monuments? And again, don't get me shut down. I just was using numbers. But if that's true, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. I mean, where are they? Even in this area. So I just don't. It's not talked about. I mean, let's be honest. Is there favoritism to more exotic, non-European nationalities now? Pole Town is now Bang Town. The Polish-American Chicagoan said the author was pro-Nazi and Nordic. His Polish-American critics persuaded Mayor Edward Kelly to ban the novel from the Chicago Public Library. So that's pretty intense. Or do you just think the Poles are, as they're scum? How dare they criticize the man who wrote The Man with the Golden Arm? This seems to be a war between hipsterism and the Polish Americans. They're going out, just like in Gran Torino, right? Yeah, so that was his big one. The Man with the Golden Arm. Much of the story takes place in post-war period Division Suite in Milwaukee Avenue in Old Pole Town. Okay, so it's special to him. It doesn't mean he's not good. It doesn't mean he's not a great author, but his stuff is dark. And it's been my experience that, the left, guys, they like to write, they like to read and write a lot about, substance abuse stuff and dark stuff. Why don't they polka like the Polish Americans? In any case, that book, I mean, there's, in his defense, okay, so some of it's about classism or getting up by your bootstraps or, the downtrodden. I've accused the man of being a commie, which I'm not really sure. I have to confess, I haven't read Man with the Golden Arm, so again, I'm taking my Polish brother's word for it. Somebody said, Stasiu, he is hip. Don't do it. There's nothing wrong with the neighborhood. The demographics have completely changed, and it's now, just like Greenpoint, a hipster area. That's the bottom line. Whether or not you think it should be named after this guy who wrote about anti-Polish stereotypes and anti-colonialism. Have you read Never Came Morning in 1942? They actually wanted to, the city actually decided to rename Evergreen Street at the home of the author's final reverence to Algren Street. This decision was massively controversial. Yeah, of course. Why not? Why shouldn't it be? So it was such a historic place for the Poles, and they felt it was unfair. Why is this sort of thing so unknown? Interesting. Bruce Lee's son, the movie Scarecrow, is about the Devil's Night, which was basically uh, fire, um, a night where they did nasty kind of a almost like terrorist action fires, and the Poles basically got kicked out of there. They got kicked out of Pole Town. Again, the Pole Town is the extreme story or a small area. It doesn't really compare to the massive numbers of people who've had to flee, from the main part of the area. So I'm going to leave this story by Miss O'Mara in the liner notes. And I haven't read American Warsaw by Dominic yet. I certainly will. Again, there's no doubt about it. The area is the area is under contention. That's just basically also in fairness to this guy Algren. This is just a manifestation of some resentment and pain of being kind of drowned out one way or another. Many people try to put a happy face on this stuff that you've moved up or whatever. Is that always the case? I don't think everybody, for instance, at Poletown, Michigan, moved up. How many people even lost their lives for that displacement over there? So, the West Town. What the? Wicca Park is a weird name, though. Wicca Park, Chicago. Do you live around there? The Polish Gold Coast is Wicca Park. Is it safe? It is still less safe than more solidly gentrified neighborhoods like Lakeview and Lincoln Park. Yeah, I started this thing out talking about that Wicca thing. That was sort of paranoia. All right. The other thing about Chicago, it's considered the most gang-infested city in the United States, with over 100,000 active gang members and 60 factions. So, yeah. Portage Park, I guess, is the heavy area. So if you're Polish American, let me know what's the deal. The actual raw numbers is most Poles are living in New York City. Illinois is too. Is there really 10 million Poles left? Are they? What's the real thing? They say 70,000 people, but there's a lot of old people. Are they coming back? I'm interested to read that guy's book about that. American Warsaw. What do you think? Nobody's in my live chat. We're at 24 minutes. I'm going to let this continue, and as I continue to incriminate myself, I guess. The Polonia Triangle. Are you from there? I'm going to go on record right now and say I pretty much think, there's still the Chopin Theater there, I guess, right? The Polish diaspora is now working, it was the working class struggle. Very poor people. That's one of the controversies. So they want to also redevelop the triangle as the gateway to Wick Park. What do you think? I never hear from anybody in Chicago when I do these things. I guess you have to specifically mention somebody. I have again heard. I have been outraged about the lack of attention paid to Colonel Matt Irvine, who's heavily connected to Buffalo, New York, and Michigan. Many would consider him the greatest soldier in American history. Having a medal count equal to or better than the famous actor Audie Murphy. Yet he's virtually unknown. Some people corrected me when I just had a video on here about Gabby Gabretsky saying he's Polish, and some people are like, don't say he's Polish, and a lot of them are, yeah, hey, he's a Polish boy, Polish guy. Or have the second wave of Poles, they moved to the suburbs, so they're all okay, and this is all a harmful diatribe I've done. How dare you? They have moved up. Is that really the case? Have you moved to the suburbs of Chicago and you're doing wonderful now because of the perfect system that includes no social engineering or no problems in America? Have you been properly educated in the Polish area of the city, the Polish Gold Coast, and have you become very wealthy and moved to the suburbs and you're now open-minded and educated by the incredible system? I don't know. I'm skeptical of some of that. So it's still a blue-collar area. What's the truth? I'm drifting. While we're on here, let's just ask the computer about churches shutting down. Yeah. How the Polish churches shutting down there are the Catholic churches. Chicago Catholics grieve parish closings. So with an estimated 75 Catholic churches expected to consolidate, what's happening? I will leave this in the liner notes too, and a fascinating article by what I would presume is an Irish American girl, because I guess it's a Polish girl couldn't write that article. Woo! You don't have me on the Reuben Hurricane thing. I didn't say that case wasn't real or not. Please. I'm just talking about the end of the Polish American neighborhoods. I should have had that prepared. It's now a hipster hub. Empty faces. Chicago is quote unquote suffering demographic realities. Yeah. Just as vanishing Polish Greenpoint. There used to be a great Polish newspaper in the Greenpoint area. Nowhere, Nowzydzirinik. Population of Poles cut in half. That was 2007. What's now? Greenpoint, the displacement of the Eastern European populations. Again, yeah. In New York proper, you can meet some Poles, and it's supposed to be the largest one, but I don't see much of a neighborhood there. All right, well, I've kept you guys too long. I've gotten negative. I'm going to keep these up till I get some responses, and hopefully I don't, offend anybody, whatever. I just think this is reality, and do you see it as a good thing? You know, come to live in America, you're an American now. You're not Polish anymore. Also, if you're Italian or other European nationalities, Irish, whatnot, German, Germantown in your area, is that all gone? Let me know in the response. I'm very interested in this stuff. All right, I'm going to end here. I'm going to be back on later for more. I'm going to get you fired up, especially if you're Polish. Let me know. All right, dzień dobry.